So, the 2017 DC box office movie Hit has had a sequel release in the middle of a pandemic, only to be confirmed of a third movie on its way, with both its director Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot returning. Meanwhile, Man of Steel is sitting here sequel-less since 2013. Yikes. Can I get someone to wish for that movie to happen? Hello everyone, my name is Valerian, and today we are going to look into 2020's last big hit of a very horrible year, Wonder Woman 1984. Directed by Patty Jenkins and starring Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Pedro Pascal, and Kristen Wiig. The sequel takes place decades after the first film, with Wonder Woman, also known as Diana Prince, living a mostly solitary life, until everything changes when her former lover Steve Trevor appears and the appearance of the artifact known as the Wishing Stone. It's up to Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor to once again take up arms and save the world. For those of you who ask me, is it better than the first movie? Overall, no, it's not. Though I personally believe it's not a bad movie per se, as it still has some aspects which are good, even great. With that out of the way, let's get started with Wonder Woman 84's story. If you ask me to describe this film's story in one word, it would be cheese. Like, lots of cheese. It's campy, and it's got a substantially lighter and brighter tone than its predecessor. Shown from the plot to even how the film is shot, Wonder Woman 84 tries to show a Wonder Woman film not in the bleak of World War, but in the bright and hip setting of the 80s. Unfortunately, the namesake of the era isn't really used to its full potential, as the 80s is merely a backdrop for the film being a fish out of water scenario for Steve, and making the film in the present would actually complicate things for the DC timeline. So perhaps they thought of tossing it here in the 80s would be the easiest solution. So honestly, this is a wasted opportunity. Era of the plot aside, the story itself doesn't really do anything to innovate any new grounds. It's very predictable most of the time, except for the ending, which actually caught me by a surprise. But looking back, it's honestly something I should have seen coming. The cheesiness of the film is pretty thick, from the characters, the dialogue, the motivations, and basically everything else. You're either gonna love it or hate it, but personally, I love the type of cheese that they're going with. I've said the word cheese so many times I'd probably bite a rat's over. Anyway, to compare a bit towards the two films, I actually felt the reversal of the first Wonder Woman when watching this film, where the first and second acts of the first Wonder Woman were great and the third one was a letdown. The third act of Wonder Woman 84 is probably its best, whereas its first and second acts leave a lot to be desired. Though that's not saying Wonder Woman 84 at its best even trumps Wonder Woman at its worst. I do feel like the story tries to sacrifice some of its logic, to have certain things play out in order for the plot to progress, or to have some certain emotional scenes play out. There are some I can excuse, but because when the emotional scenes hit, they do hit pretty hard, even if you've never seen the first film. However, most of them would just leave you confused, perplexed, and honestly quite annoyed due to the things that are happening, because it's feeling so forced you might as well bring a sign above the character's head that stated, "I need to do this now because my scriptwriter said so." Overall, it's a by-the-book story that takes leaps of logic sometimes to accommodate emotional scenes, sprinkled with tons of campiness. With that out of the way, let's get talking to the characters. Wonder Woman's characters are what make or break this movie, because the plot is pretty generic, so it leans towards the acting skills and the likability of the characters to carry its weight. Thankfully, out of the main cast of characters, most of them do a pretty decent, if not excellent job. Let's start with the main lead herself, Gal Gadot. Once again, she's great as Wonder Woman, who manages to show off most of her emotional side in this film. She manages to portray quite a range of emotions while still feeling like she's not really one of us, or a mere mortal, because she isn't. Anyways, moving on, Chris Pine as Steve Trevor is once again a good addition, but one questions why his role is needed to be here in this film. I'm not saying he's bad, he's probably the third best character here, but honestly, his role feels quite forced seeing as how the script bends over backwards trying to make it work, and most of the time, it kinda doesn't. Pedro Pascal as the businessman or con artist Maxwell Lord is, although a departure from the comic version, is an interesting villain to see. A departure from most antagonists in the DCEU, being big, bad, and albeit one-dimensional. Maxwell Lord does seem to carry this movie, for if you really don't care about his story, you're probably not going to enjoy most of this film. And finally, Kristen Wiig as Barbara Minerva. Honestly, it kind of irks me seeing as how every time we need a character to be seen as uncool or unpopular, we just give them the huge glasses and the inability to walk on high heels. And when they do turn cool, everything suddenly changes. It's honestly a cliche I honestly feel that was pretty odd to begin with, but now it's just plain boring to see. Regarding the character herself, I feel like the role in this movie is one that's the most hurt by the film's nonsensical and directional script, as her role flips from one way to another faster than you can say.
Whoa, what?
Kristen did do a solid performance with what she'd been given. There's definitely some potential squandered because I felt like, given the right script, she could have done a great job with this character. Patty Jenkins returns for this film, and so does most of her great camera work. I really enjoyed the action sequences for the first and second acts of the movie. They were quite a distraction from the actual plot, and the way it was shot makes you be able to see what's actually going on. So none of that shaky cam footage and more of the, let's just say, Batman warehouse fight in Batman v Superman. That said, somehow the final act decided to throw all that good camera work out of the window, opting for a more up-close and personal style of shooting that honestly left much to be desired. In the end, for most of its runtime, I actually had no problems with the cinematography until it really mattered at the end. The special effects and the CGI, however, I felt like it needed some work. Honestly, there's times where it's good, and then sometimes it's downright laughable. I feel like the previous film didn't have this much issue, but oh, Cheetah, oh my. For the music, Hans Zimmer returns to score superhero films once again, replacing Rupert Gregson-Williams. Honestly, though I kinda hope for an 80s vibe, the score isn't terrible. It's got great tracks at certain times, but most of it does feel generic and serviceable. I mean, this is the guy who made Wonder Woman's theme to begin with, so overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the music in this film. So what's my verdict? I would give Wonder Woman a solid 6 out of 10. Overall, Wonder Woman 84 is a movie that tries to send a moral through its story, that cheaters never prosper and only through honest work can one truly achieve what they wish for. Unfortunately, its moral message is conveyed in a forceful manner, making leaps of logic to make sure that this happens so the moral can be highlighted. The acting is great, the music is good, the cinematography for the most part is also good. However, the CGI is at times laughable, the plot feels like it's devoid of logic at times, and in the end, it's a movie that, although not bad, will most certainly not be remembered fondly either. In the words of the man himself,
It's good, but it can be better.
thank you for watching. If you like this video, do check out my other videos. I post videos about games and movies, so if you like what you see, do hit the like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. My name is Valerians, thank you, and goodbye.